Joe Louis is one of the best boxers of all time. He defended the heavyweight title 25 times. Joe was an aggressive counter-puncher. He would control distance with the jab. He was a mid-range fighter who used the cross to hurt his opponents. Joe used a stiff jab. This would make them back up or move their head. He would parry his opponent's jabs in order to maintain that mid-range distance for the cross. When Joe had you at mid-range, he would try to land a cross. It was fast, it was powerful, he was known as a sharp shooter because of how accurate he was. Jack Blackburn, who trained Louis, taught him to be patient and on balance and not to waste his shots. Because he had such good balance, he was always ready to punch again, or he could slip, dip, or whatever he wanted to defend himself. The style Joe had was so effective because he was always ready to hit you with that right hand, but also he had such a good left hook too. Here you can see Joe uses a left hook to punch the arm out of the way for his right cross. You just don't see that anymore. As an amateur, Joe had in and out footwork which was quite fast, but Blackburn trained that out of him as a professional because he wanted him to maintain that distance and to pressure the opponent at medium range in order to land that right hand. In his book How to Box, he says each blow is to weaken your opponent so that you only need one more to finish him, which leads us on to combinations. Joe's best combinations was his right cross left hook, and he would keep doing it if there was an opening. He'd often double up on one side like a double right hand. Joe had an amazing right hand, but he also had an amazing left hook, and he could literally lift people off the floor. He could triple it up, knock you down going backwards, throw you into the ropes, or knock you out cold. This next clip is a perfect example of Joe using the jab to maintain distance and using his combinations to do the damage. They say Joe's punches could paralyse you, and if you were on the ropes, he would always have another shot waiting for you. Joe was an expert counterpuncher, and that doesn't just mean moving back and hitting. He will hit you halfway through your own combination. So far we have a man with a decent jab, always looking for the right hand and left hook, devastating power in both hands, insanely accurate, and always walking forward. If you trade shots with him, you might land one shot and get 3 or 4 of the best shots in boxing's history against you. So as his opponent, you try and get away from his shots, try and get underneath them like maybe Smoking Joe Frazier with his bob and weave style. Well, that wouldn't work either because Joe had an amazing uppercut. It wasn't like George Foreman or Mike Tyson, but the way he threw his left hook into it afterward would have just been absolutely awful. Joe's style was all about getting knockouts and hurting people. So when he used his right uppercut, it was to soften them up for the left hook, which you can see an example coming up. Here Joe shows his skill of 3 uppercuts in a row. And sometimes one is just enough to get the win. You don't get 25 title defences without having good defence. Joe would duck right hands going underneath them. The right hand would go over the top of your head and then he would get no damage from it whatsoever. He would also pull away from his shots and angle out from them. This is a fantastic jab and pull away to avoid the counter. And this is an example of how Joe would maintain distance with the jab. So I've got 4 examples of Joe landing the counter left hook. So here he slips on the inside and lands that left hook. Next he ducks underneath a left hook and then lands the left hook to the body. He blocks shots here and lands a left hook to the jaw. And finally he steps back and left hooks, like a check left hook. So in summary, Joe Louis was an aggressive, stalking, mid-range counterpuncher. He would knock you out with either hand. He would always be looking to land a counterpunch. If you hit him, he would try and get you halfway through your own combination. He could parry, duck, roll, block, step back, and still have good balance to land a powerful shot of his own. He would be world champion in any era.